All right, welcome to the Vet Practice Playbook, brought to you by VetPractice Pro, where we talk all things veterinary leadership, management, clinic ownership, and more. I'm Dr. Emily King, joined by Kayla and John Biddles, and my awesome husband, Richie King. And before we really get started, I have to say, oh my gosh, how awesome Saturday's workshop was, because I think we were on like some kind of adrenaline high. I felt really bad because you went to your actual other job.
I did.
And so we were like, bye, Caleb, we are going to party.
We had so much fun that day.
Yeah. I mean, it was the participants were really like engaged. They had great comments. They
were permeable to be poured into.
Yes.
And I feel
they were so like, give me more. Yeah. They were definite sponges.
Yeah. I'm kind of on this teaching high 2 or 3 days later still. I didn't sleep that night just because I was so excited about what went down during the workshop. So if we have one of these in the future, you have to tune in.
Yeah, tune in. And then we went and then the place we went to get some food had live music. And I was like, this is amazing. Like the whole vibe was just like, it was a great day. Yeah. And then went home and watched championship football, Big Ten championship football, and holy cannolis, IU wins.
They did.
None of the commentators, including my husband, gave IU any like whatever.
Neither did I, but congrats to IU, but IU still sucks. Go Boilers.
Okay, I understand you feel that way, but I think we could take some real leadership lessons away from Signetti. So, I mean, I was really thinking about that this weekend and just like, what has he done? How has he done it? Why? How was he able to do it? True. Like, and so anyway, I just find his whole story fascinating. I love that he came from James Madison. It's like, I feel like I know him and he does not know of me at all. However, we should totally get him on the playbook.
Let's do it. He's got this culture that
who's reaching out to him?
I
am.
You went to JMU.
I'm totally reaching out to him. I'm going to totally email him. I'm going to fangirl him and see if he'll give me a like and see if he'll come on the podcast.
My favorite line was Google me.
Google me.
You'll find out. I win.
Yeah.
I love it.
He's just like, he's just a social media goldmine with all of his comments. You put a mic in front of him and it's him and Mendoza both. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's just like some like 6-year-old loving life. He's like, who would have thought the flippin' Hoosiers would be about? Like, it's just
plus
so
he's got
cute.
little bro out there taking snaps after he got hurt the first play.
Yes, I mean, like the whole thing is just, it's so inspiring, and it makes me so happy.
There'll be a movie about it.
There absolutely will be. Yeah.
Well, he's gonna be on our podcast first,
especially if they win the ship.
Yep, exactly. Okay, anyway, sorry, tangent. Okay, so definitely, if we have another workshop, make sure you check it out. There's going to be lots of stuff coming out soon, right? With the courses and all of that stuff. And how are you guys excited? Are you guys feeling good about it? Feeling excited? Richie, your turn's up next. Are you ready to start your recordings?
Yep.
You want to give? Yes. Do you want to give anybody a teaser on what you're going to be talking about?
Yes, it's going to be very good content.
No teasers today.
No teasers? Give them a little bit. Give them just a little tease of what they might be hearing about in the courses that you're getting ready to film.
They're all the lessons that I learned over 20 years of basically doing what we did at the clinic.
All the things not to do?
What didn't work.
As it pertains to what? Like finance?
Financial.
Right.
I was going to say money.
A lot of things that didn't work, but there's a lot of things that did.
Okay.
If you're looking to make a change, a positive change, then it should be helpful.
Okay. That's going to be awesome. And then Harrison also is going to be producing content on marketing, social media, and all that stuff. So it's going to be a pretty robust, like, conglomerate of information.
Yeah.
Don't you guys think?
There's a lot of content coming out.
Key takeaways, things like that. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to talk about change today, guys. Because change is fun. Because we got a really great question. And so as we were preparing for this, I think the concept of change and what's involved in change and how maybe we can think about change is a great place to start. And then we can go into the question and go from there. Mm-hmm. All right. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right. So let's talk change. Okay. What's the Beatles song that's change? Nobody knows.
I'm not the person to ask.
Okay. Hold on. I got to pull up my document. Okay, what do you guys think are some of the components of change and how you get people to accept change? Because we know at the clinic, like that's always been a joke, right? That change is the hardest thing. And I don't think people necessarily mind change as much as they mind how you try and change them. So like, you're forcing change upon them, I think is really where some of that friction comes from.
Yep.
So, we kind of have some thoughts here on paper about what that looks like.
Yep.
Kayla, do you got some thoughts?
Well, first thing, we're big on explaining the why.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to know why the change is happening. So whether it's, I don't know, you keep missing appointments, or, people call in as missed appointments. Okay, let's figure out why. Like, why are they missing? And then why are we going to make this change? So again, why does it matter? What's the problem? And let's fix it.
Okay. Because change is inevitable. It's going to happen. And it's happening, in our personal lives. It's happening in our work lives. And so embrace it.
Yes.
I think as leaders, if you're planning on implementing a change in your practice, when you're having these conversations with your teams that are the decision makers, the deciding factors, when you're sitting around that table, you need to either write them down, but highlight those key points in your heart that'll help explain why you got to that decision later. They don't need to know every in and out of how you got there, but the real driving facts of why this is important enough to uproot everything and change it is what you need to incorporate into that why when you explain it. And chances are, if they know your culture, they'll come behind you.
Yeah. I mean, one of the examples that I think is a common one that practices deal with, let's talk about one that happened at All-Star not too long ago. We moved from typing our records to using scribing software. Holy cannolis. You would have thought that we had turned things upside down.
Damn you, autocorrect.
Yeah. I mean, all of it. Like, no way. This is going to take us more time. It's going to be harder. It's not going to work. What do you mean I have to do things on my phone now? What do you mean that I have to, all of it, right? Like the 6 stages of grief, basically in change, right?
Yep.
I mean, and that's kind of how you have to think about it when you're working with your employees. Okay. So we have the why before the what, right? That's the first thing. Okay. So the understanding what the purpose is and what the plan is, so that then they can buy into it. One other point that I want to bring up is what I call loss acknowledgement, or another way of thinking of it is loss aversion bias. Have you heard of loss aversion bias?
Educate me.
Richard, do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
When I say this out loud, it'll make sense, or it'll bring back thoughts to you. People think that it's they feel worse when they lose $50 versus making $50. So like when they make $50, the feeling good isn't as much of a feeling as losing the $50.
So how does that relate to change?
Loss aversion bias. Well, because you're losing something when change happens. You're either losing control, they feel like they're losing something.
I was comfortable with this system. I understood it. I'm losing an understanding. This is going to upset the apple cart.
Right. So acknowledging that there's going to be loss there and explaining, maybe you don't use loss aversion bias as a way of explaining it, but just acknowledging that you're going to lose something. It's not going to feel good. Right. And so to your point of, it might be control over, I don't know, where you put the information into the record. That was one of the big rubs when we went to describing software is, what do you mean I can't just type the history into the record? No, you're going to verbally record it, and then that is going to then be placed into the record. So you no longer have to do both. You don't have to verbally record it and type it. That's duplicitous. We're going to save you time by just verbally recording it.
You did a great job there, just explaining the why and how, and the what, how it benefits them. If efficiency is what you seem that they feel like they're losing is efficiency, you explain how this will give them more time. Maybe not at first, but in the end game, it seems that you value time. You can drive that conversation saying, what I hear is you value time. What we're making this change for is to save you time. We just have to get through this learning phase.
Yes, because the benefit of becoming more efficient, they don't see that as the win. it's worse to lose the way that they did it.
Right. Well,
That's the loss aversion bias.
It's stressful too. It's uncomfortable. And we've always said you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and change is uncomfortable, but you can't grow without change.
All right. Let's see here. Another principle, autonomy and involvement. So your employees being able to help create the systems.
Yeah. No, I love that. It gives them ownership and involvement and ownership.
So in the scribing software example, we had the veterinarians try like 3 different ones. So you can get like 2-week free trials or whatever. And so then we had them try 3 of them and then weigh in on like, which one do you like better? Why don't you like this one? What do you like about this one? So that they felt like that they were involved in the decision making.
Yep. And they buy in faster.
Yes. Yep. Okay. Anything else to add about that?
No, I've had that experience a couple of my nursing positions where I put together a process improvement team. I took a core group of staff, I put them together. We identify areas of inefficiency, things that they want changed, and they speak collectively for the group of nurses. And then I involve them in that project as far as pushing that forward. It's a great tool to use because I have a group of 7. It's always an odd number in case we have to vote on something.
Yes, that's a great point.
But this group of 7 now becomes not just me explaining the whys and the what to all of these people like it's a John-driven decision. This was a group decision on the spokes group of staff that are in the trenches with you, that they agree and they understand the why. So as people start to gossip, they're out there in the midst of it, diffusing it, explaining what the barriers are. They help roll it out. And then it also gives you opportunity as a leader to promote this group and promote the staff that drove the change to where you're not taking the credit. You're giving the credit to, you were just facilitating what they wanted. And it goes so much easier than whether it's a top-down change.
Yeah, absolutely. When we did the scribing software update, we have 10 veterinarians. So you can imagine not everybody feels the same about everything. And so we did that same thing. Dudley did, once we picked which one we really liked, Dudley started using that, came up with some of the glitches. So her team came up with some of the glitches and maybe put together some processes to make it easier. Then rolled it to the next person who we thought would be the most accepting, right? So you get all the people on board that are the most accepting of the change and that are going to be your cheerleaders for the change, because now they're out there talking like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I got to leave on time today. And other people are hearing them say these things and they're like, okay, well, I can't wait till it's my turn now. Like, so you kind of totally change how people are thinking about change. And so that's a great point. Yes. Very good. Okay. So we have, let's see here. We started with the why before the what. We've got loss acknowledgement. We've got autonomy and involvement. And then psychological safety is another key core to change being accepted. So people really need to feel safe, asking stupid questions or struggling. I have down here that I wanted to make sure that people understood that people fear looking incompetent, getting criticized, being replaced. So like, will the change? We actually had somebody ask us that with the scribing software. Well, you're not going to need me anymore. Like they can just go in and collect the information. You're not going to need my job anymore. And it's like, no, that's not. So that fear of losing their job potentially, and so I think those are all things, I guess, that people are scared of.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen those exhibited?
Well, I just think, I hear all the time, even outside the veterinary world, of businesses shutting down because of things like AI and all the technology we have. So I do think that is a very valid fear. And so just encouraging your staff that know, like, we're implementing this for these other reasons. Your role will change possibly to XYZ.
Right.
Oh, go ahead.
I think that a good way to go about this, especially if it's time related, because usually people say, what am I going to do with my time if I'm replaced by said software or said process? I would sit down and write out a list of things you would like that employee to do if they had more time. And I would ask the employee to do the exact same thing. What are the things that you would love to do, but you don't have the time? Sit them down if they're really having a problem with this, that what's my value going to be? Put those lists together, figure out and prioritize together. Now, if you can do this, you're going to have this much more time that we can both be satisfied because these tasks get done. And bring them along with you. You have to bring them along with you. And if their concern is where their place is going to be, address where their place could be, give them something to go for.
Yeah. I think if they don't understand why the change is occurring, then what we've seen is they actually will sabotage the change.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and I don't know if it's like consciously like, I'm going to sabotage this because I don't want to do it. But I think that those stages of change that occur, like, are you kidding me? Why do I have to do that? To, all the way down to completely buying in, and participating. There's lots of stages in between there. And halfway through, if they don't get it, then they're going to make it hard for you, and so it's, why are you laughing?
My favorite gossip quote is, we're just doing this so they can make more money.
Yeah.
Great. You should want them to make more money, because when they make more money, that's how you can make more money.
Yeah,
but yeah, exactly. I love it when they're like, we're just doing this so they can just make more money. Oh, okay. Well, I think that's probably a good change.
That's right. I've also seen people go back to doing things the old way. Like they'll do it, they'll nod and say, yes, okay. So we're not typing anymore into the record, and we are just going to talk into Covet, and then we will put that will go into the record. Okay. And then before you know it, a day goes by, they do it for the day, the next day comes by and you see somebody typing, and you're like, what are you doing? Yeah. I'm just typing a history. But we said yesterday that we agreed that we were just going to verbally talk into Covet. We don't need to do that anymore because now we're saving you time.
Right. Which they're always not going to notice that in one day.
It is hard, because it is. And that is not necessarily the employee's fault as much as potentially leadership not doing a good enough job of being like, this is better for you. This is what you need to be doing. So, yeah, I don't know. It makes me laugh.
I rolled out a digital patient log one time to track all the patients that come through, which we had to do anyway. And it was on paper. It's the way we always did it.
Right.
Well, the person that mastered the paper one, she would literally start a new paper because it had to be in her writing so she could understand it. But the day we rolled out the new patient log, for several weeks, she was doing both. She just didn't trust that computer.
Didn't trust the computer.
So she's literally typing it in and then writing it just the same. I'm like, okay, we got to figure this out. You can do something way more efficiently with your time than doing it both ways. Both ways. Yeah.
That, because the person's saying to themselves, well, I'm not being insubordinate because I'm doing it the way you want to, but I'm also going to do it the way I want to.
I think that goes back to a comfort thing. They're comfortable and control. They can control it and they're comfortable with it and they don't want to give that up.
Right. But as a leader, you have to be comfortable holding them accountable.
Absolutely.
So it can't slide.
It's really hard because you don't want to be the person over their shoulder all the time. You know what I mean? Like going, nah,
Right. But everyone will just backslide and go back to how it's comfortable.
What is the saying about habits? Like where you have to do something so many times in order for it to be a habit?
21.
21.
Yeah, I was going to say 21.
So, when you are teaching a new process, I think that's important to keep in mind.
And I think, too, you have to hear it 7 times. I could have made that up.
And then I think people forget 80% of what they learn. Like, there's that research to show that, you teach something, you come back that day, they can regurgitate what it is that you were talking about. You come back in 24 hours, and they have forgotten, adults have forgotten 80% of what you talked about. So you have to I guess my point in bringing this up is, reiterate again. It would not be unusual to have to reiterate the why and the what and the all of it the next day when you're trying to implement change.
Yeah. And I think too, the whole team, those people who are behind you and know the change and the process, they have to be comfortable with encouraging the other staff to make the change and explaining the why. And hey, don't forget, we're doing it this way now.
Yeah.
Implementing change will quickly identify your employees that are game up and supporting you and your decisions as a leader versus the ones that are there for a paycheck and want their world easy. And you'll find out real quick who's got your back and who doesn't in a lot of situations.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And then another nice little thing you can do is make small changes instead of some ginormous big overhaul.
Yeah.
Our brains have a tendency to be able to process small changes that will get you to where you want to go, but maybe just don't change it all at once. You guys agree?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay. And then celebrate, right? Progress.
Yep.
So make sure that you're asking them to change. You know change is difficult. So then let's celebrate those changes when people do follow through and they do what you're asking them to do. Show them how it's improved success, right? Highlight those things and then celebrate it.
I recently, when I started this new job where I'm at now in the healthcare world, right when I came in, one of my first projects was fixing the medication barcode scanning rate. We work in a fast environment. Not all medications are getting scanned. You scan the patient, scan the medication, and document that you've given it. Well, people were bypassing the scan rate. So one of John's first targets was to get this to the goal of 95% scan rate.
Of scanning the patient, then scanning the medication.
Mm-hmm. Scan the patient, scan the medication, you enter the time.
Okay.
And they're like, hey, John, can you take this on? Sure. New guy? Yeah, let me drive the change. Let me go tell everybody that they're doing it wrong and that they need to scan their meds. But hey, we've done this before. So we encouraged it. We coached it. We coached individually people that were below the level. We looked at barrier analysis. What is it that's keeping you from being able to do this specifically? Broke down as many barriers as we could. And I'm telling you, these employees were so sick of me coming around talking to them about barcode scanning. However, it put us in a position of control because anytime a scanner didn't work or they couldn't scan a med, we now knew why. So now I have information coming in that we can fix the issues, address all the low-hanging fruit. We got to the 95%. We've surpassed it for 6 consecutive months. But the first time we hit that 95%, I left, I went out, I went down to Costco and got them one of their cakes, and we put, congrats, we hit 95%, and we put it in the break room. And listen, when you're a dude and you're leading a bunch of women, Costco cake goes a long way. It goes a long way. And we
in the kitchen.
We celebrated that first 95% month, and we've never looked back, and we've never hit below 95%.
That's
ever
amazing.
Since. So just going through that process, including your staff in it, taking in information, they're the ones in there doing it. But most importantly, be sure to celebrate it at the end. They're working trying to achieve a goal too. And you as a leader shouldn't just relish in the fact that, hey, I did the job that was asked of me. You should really reward those that were part of it, the ones that made a change, the ones that helped push that there. So if it's Costco cake, great. If you got confetti cannons like we did in the live session, whatever works, celebrate it.
Yeah, that is so true. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a really cool goal that and then you tangible and got it.
Yep.
And that's cool.
Yep.
Oh gosh, very neat. Okay. Let's see here. So we have all those different aspects of change. What else do we want to add, Kayla? Anything?
I don't know. Do you want to talk about, people may ask, well, great, I know a change. What do I do now?
Yes. Good point. Let's talk about that.
So anytime I was at All-Star and I was part of the change, so really I would always make a detailed standard operating procedure. So write it all down. What are the steps? What are the expectations? Again, that's a great accountability tool. And then really you just need to meet and train all those individuals that it's going to affect, really hitting on the why and why is this change important? How is it going to affect them or the growth of the clinic, whatever we're looking at. And then really just hold them accountable, let them go. But you also need to be present. And I think the team leaders need to be present as well to make sure they're implementing the change. And again, also, once you make the change, you have to make 10 more changes inside the change. Yes. So we always joke too, like, okay, we're going to change this, but be prepared to see 10 more changes because you roll it out, you're going to have to make tweaks. So we always joked how much we loved change at All-Star.
Well, we read the book Who Moved My Cheese?
Yeah.
And which is a book about change and how people feel about change. And I think that was big because it gave everybody a way of joking about change.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to change just for the sake of changing. I mean, like, let's be clear about that. But I think you have to be willing to change in order to grow. Yeah. You're not going to grow unless you're willing to change. So how do you go about it in a productive way so that you're not driving up anxiety?
Yeah. And I think we had him read that book because we knew there was a lot of change coming.
Yes. Yeah.
It just was like, you change one thing, okay, then this is going to have to change and this is going to have to change. And so we're like, everyone is going to hate us. And so we made them all read the book with us. We talked through the book to kind of prepare them for change is coming. It's
Yes.
coming.
And
so
it
I
was
think
funny
that helps.
because they would identify with the different mice in the book, the
Yeah.
characters, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'm a Ralph," like, "Oh, here we go, change is coming. I'm moving my cheese, people. I'm taking it," like. And so it was great because it gave them kind of like a fun way to
Yeah.
think about it and talk about it as a group collectively,
Yep.
and they could call each other out. Then you know what I mean, like, and so it was great instead of just feeling like they were in it by themselves or
Right,
that they
or
just
we
had
were
to suck it up
forcing
and
it.
do it
Yeah,
or yeah.
I think we need to reinforce the training side of things. For those of you that don't know Kayla as well as I do, we've been together since we're 13, but she is the training guru of all gurus that I've ever seen train people. She will train and train. I've had the pleasure of leading alongside her. And when she implements something new, the amount of training and sit down one-on-one time that she'll put through after developing the SOP for it, and she will train that and train that and train that and make sure that they get it. It's a tool for accountability down the road.
Mhm.
If you're going to drive change, I think we've hit on the fact that people don't necessarily like it. So you really need to have a structured way to hold them accountable. And the more black and white you can make it through training, through SOPs, is so much easier to say, okay, we've set the expectation. You completely understood. It's written in black and white. Why aren't you accepting the change? It really takes some of that of, I didn't know, some of the excuses out that can come from people.
Nobody told me that.
No, how am I supposed to know? Nobody told me that. She's like, oh no, we did. We sat down, we trained. Here's the protocol. Here's the policy. Matter of fact, you have it in a nice, beautiful folder that Kayla buttoned
Well, I even
up
had
for
people
you.
sign.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say actually you signed the paper that
people
said you
sign
got it.
People sign it. And I think that as harsh as it may feel, you have to have a tool of accountability when we're looking at
It makes
now
it
what.
way easier down the line.
Yep, exactly.
They can't say they didn't know because you signed my paper.
Okay, so say you have an employee, say you go through all these things and you really feel like you set up change correctly and you're implementing a new policy and you're like, nope, we've done all these things, and you still have somebody who's not coming along. What does that conversation look like?
Help me understand. That's a John quote.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. You could talk into that. That was your quote.
It comes down to coaching, counseling, corrective action. You have a performance issue at this point. If you've done all of these things, if you've done the training, if you've written the SOPs and everybody else has come along, but like you're saying, you still have this one person that's resistant. I do think that it's fair, they should have due process as far as sitting down with them and a final type of barrier analysis. What's going on? I feel like you're not coming along. What are the barriers? What's holding you back? And talk them through that. Reconnect them to the purpose. Reconnect them to the why. But at that point, you've done everything that you can. That accountability has to come into play. And you take it as you would any other performance issue. You go down a coaching, counseling, corrective action type of cycle. If everybody else has been able to grasp the information, implement it, and has been able to maintain a positive attitude, then you have an employee performance issue at that point if you've taken down all the barriers for them, is what I would say. Somebody may look at it different, but that's the John Biddle's way of going about it.
Yeah. No, I think that sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Got anything to add?
No, I think if it's right off the bat and, with that conversation, they may bring good ideas. Like, hey, you
didn't think about this.
Yeah. Which I think is a great thing for them to give you feedback. So you might be able to change again.
Right.
But if you do have the good SOP, the good training model, holding them accountable, it's more than likely they're just being stubborn and don't want to.
I'm having a
they're hanging onto the bus by the outside mirror. All right, so that leads us perfectly into the question, our listener question. Let me pull this up really fast here so I can read it because I certainly don't have it memorized. So we're going to go into what we call the roundtable replay, which is a question and answer. So a little bit of a story segment where we're going to respond to some listener inquiries. All right. So the one we have for today is this. Hi, VetPractice Playbook. I'd love your perspective on a situation I'm really struggling with. I work as a practice manager at my dad's veterinary clinic. He's been a veterinarian for over 30 years. Is he my age then? I was just thinking about 30 years. Holy crap. Okay, sorry. And I truly admire the way he's built his hospital from the ground up. But now that I'm part of the team, I'm trying to help modernize some of our systems so we can keep growing long term. The problem is my dad hates change. Anytime I bring up a new idea, he either brushes it off or gets frustrated. And it usually ends with, we've always done it this way. I know he cares deeply about the clinic, but I'm worried we're falling behind, and I'm frustrated because I can see the potential we're not tapping into. How do you navigate wanting to help your parents' practice grow while also respecting their history and leadership, especially when you disagree on what the clinic needs to move forward? I mean, I think she's done a great job of appreciating the grit and the time and the treasure that her father had to put in to build it, right? I think she understands that. In the question, she gets it. She gets that he's got a legacy and she's trying to protect that, but at the same time, grow the practice because she can maybe see a little bit outside the box as to maybe other things they could take advantage of, you know?
I mean, it's only in this guy's best interest to grow the practice.
I think that one thing I would say to do is, it's really hard when you're a practicing veterinarian and you're doing veterinary medicine during the day to have a more deep conversation at work. And I don't know whether these conversations are happening at work or outside of work, but I would counsel you to not have them during the workday, to schedule time outside of work to meet with your father to say, let's talk about our goals for even just this year. What are our goals for this year? Can we come up with some goals for this year? Don't try to have those conversations during the workday. He will blow you off. He's prioritizing his patient care over the growth of the practice or over working on the practice because he's working in it. And so I think he needs to be able to have his mind free. And I think he needs to know ahead of time. So like maybe it's something along the lines of, hey, listen, I scheduled a meeting for us next month. I'm laughing because we got heat on that one social media post about the meeting. Anyway, I'd like to schedule a meeting next month with you about our goals for 2026. Mm-hmm. And in that meeting, I'd like to talk about what we want to see for our staff, what we want to see for clients, and I don't know, I'm just making this up. What improvements, 2 improvements that we'd like to make to the clinic. So now he has a whole month to think about it. You're going to meet the first week of January, and he's going to come with his ideas, and you're going to remind him halfway between now and then that you're having the meeting again. Hey, this is your reminder. Don't forget. We're going to have this meeting on this day. And then you sit down and you talk about it. I think he'll be much more open to that type of a conversation than grabbing him in the middle of the day. And I'm not saying you're doing this necessarily, but grabbing him in the middle of the day and saying, it would be so much better if we had clients check out in the rooms. He'd be like, it's fine. We've been doing it the way we've been doing it. Like, he's not in that place.
Yeah. I think it's something that this is much broader. It's kind of a bit of a window in some of the things I'm going to talk about and some of the content that I'm putting together is that it may be, and this is a very common problem in vet med for whatever reason, it's possible that individual shouldn't be in that role to begin with.
Who, the doctor?
The doctors probably should. I think everyone only has so much mental capacity. If you're trying to practice medicine at the gold standard all day long, and then you're looking at all these operational, managerial, financial issues on the side, you probably...
Well, that's why he's saying it's much easier just to leave it, right?
My point is that at some point, every practice has to decide which direction they want to go and start to delegate out those functions that really aren't in their wheelhouse.
So you make a good point. Her mutual purpose with him and having the conversation is, you're a great veterinarian. Clients love you. Let's not burn up your mental bandwidth doing all these other things. Let's get you to just continue to focus on veterinary medicine.
Maybe he wants to do it. Maybe, I mean, it's individually specific insofar as maybe this DVM is kind of bored and wants to branch out. Great, but then just do that.
Right.
Position yourself so that you have options, long-term options to be able to implement the lifestyle you want. And I think that if you're trying to wear too many hats, you're not going to wear any of them extraordinarily well because it's just too difficult. I mean, you can't, I know, like at our experience at Ulster, there's no way that you could have practiced the way that you did and come back and spent hours doing financial stuff at night or operation. The reason I'm sure that this person is like, I don't even want to think about it because I've got a billion other things that I'm worried about right now. The last thing I need to worry about is how we're checking out the clients.
Well, and I think that's where it gives him, by giving him that space of time of what you want to talk about, allows him to use some of his vision, like to cast a vision. Like, I still want to hear what your vision is, Dad, for what this practice looks like moving forward, but I'm not putting it in your lap. Like, I just want to know what you think, might be cool to be doing as we move forward, and I'll implement it. I'll take it off your...
Well, I think too, the practice manager, like before that, like if they have what we talked about earlier, like maybe just one small change.
Yes.
But then explain to the dad the benefit of the clinic or revenue. Like, hey, if I make this small change, we can make X amount of money, or we're going to cut down on this cost by X amount of money, whatever. That he just needs to come with one small change and the ROI, essentially.
Yeah. The effect of the change.
We're spending a lot of time, or this person's talking about the drawbacks of having dad as the business owner. I would encourage you to change your lens a little and think about what advantages you have with dad as the clinic owner, as far as what tools. Well, first of all, you've known the man your whole life, or I would assume so. You know his ticks, what makes him mad, what frustrates him, but you may not know him as good as you think you do on the business side. He may have parented you under a different type and scope than what he works with. Now, you've worked with him for a long time, but sometimes you can draw lines in that over your personal relationship versus your professional relationship. That's one. Two is, if you have dad there, what other advantage do you have? Is mom still in the picture? Is mom still a part? I'm telling you that spouses will understand their spouse better than the kids will understand their parents. There may be things sacred to dad that he doesn't want to let go of, that he holds tight, because if he feels if he lets go of that, he's going to lose all control of everything that he ever built. So before you sit down and talk to him about change, think about what tools you have in your box. Can you talk to mom and say, hey, mom, I'm struggling with this. What is it that dad's hanging on to? Or along this journey, when did change happen that really bit him? Or was he scarred, or was he hurt, or it took away from him that he's not willing to change anymore? And I bet he confided in mom at some point about what was going on, and she can probably offer you some insight that he won't readily give you. That can drive your conversation with dad a little bit about, okay, it seems like you don't want to change anything. You don't want to do anything. What's sacred? What don't you want changed, and what are you willing to work with? And if he gives you areas that he's like, okay, I'd be willing to change this, start in those areas to prove that change isn't always bad, that change isn't a problem. If you can get him to agree on a little area, like Kayla said, just one small change at a time, let him keep what's sacred for now. Let him keep what's sacred for now, and make your changes in the gray areas that he's like, you could change this and I wouldn't be upset. Then he starts to see that you can manage the process. You can communicate the process, that you can drive the change. It wasn't a big lift for him. And these things that have bugged him for so long now don't. He might be willing to start shifting stuff off the sacred plate onto the plate that we're willing to change.
I like that. Yeah, absolutely. I think the other way you can bring him along with you is use some resource that you both can learn. Like, so, I'm big into books because it's easy and you can both read them together, but then you can talk about the concepts, which gives you common language to use between each other. But then also it's examples. So like if you're talking about change or the difficulty with change, and you talk about, and you read Who Moved My Cheese, or you read, I don't know, Crucial Accountability, or whatever. There's several leadership books out there that could pertain to this. And you talk about that. And now when an instance comes up, you can be like, Dad, when we were reading the book and it talked about, this is reminding me of that. Like, how can I help you with this? And so I think bringing, learning together creates that team kind of like approach to tackling, things.
I think what evidence do you have to support your change to? If it's dad, you could be a little laissez-faire in how you go about explaining it. Like, hey, this is just what we need to do. Yeah. Some people are driven, especially in the healthcare science world, or looking at people with degrees in science, we're driven by evidence-based practice. So if you want to drive a change that is a clinical change and there is evidence that supports it and it's evidence-based practice, maybe that's how you present it, if that's what drives him. Not, hey, I have this idea, we should do it and the literature says so. Show him the literature is a way to go about it as well. What drives him? Some people are very visual. Does a clinic down the street, or do you have a partner or affiliate or a colleague? For instance, I think of Vocera. Vocera was a tool that All-Star implemented. It's like almost like a walkie-talkie radio badge where you can communicate with people. Increased efficiency tremendously. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, at some point later. But if you try to explain this to a founding DVM who's always done it without it, and you say, hey, this is the price tag, but this will help us, maybe he needs to go somewhere where he can actually see it working. There are visual learners. Figure out what drives him to make decisions. Is it experiencing it? Is it evidence-based? What are those key drivers?
I think it goes back to explaining the why. It's just the opposite. So it's not the owner or the leaders explaining the why back down to their employees. It's really leading from the
up.
middle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, I see this. This is why I see value in the change. And that may open the dad's eyes as well.
It's fascinating to watch some of these situations, though, because I think you're always making changes. I mean, I'm assuming that this individual is making positive changes to make the organization work better and more financially viable, all that stuff. If you're not constantly chasing greatness, someone else will. And I think it's really important to keep that concept in mind, because I always think of Blockbuster Netflix, and I think somebody did it better than the other.
Well, that's her pain point, right? That's what she's talking about. That's her fear.
That's my point.
In
is
the
that you
question,
have to be forward thinking and say, if we don't do this, someone could open up a clinic across the street and take us out.
And that's what she's worried about.
So that's my point. Is that, and that's why I talk about incentives. What is, if this guy's been practicing for 30 years, he doesn't have the same runway that somebody that's getting out of school right now does. They just don't. So I mean, you have to start to look at that and say, what is, how do we position ourselves for greatness over the next, say, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, because someone will come along and look at those holes in your operation and exploit them. Everybody, I mean, that's business. That's just what happens. So, I mean, so if you're trying to present logic to the decision maker, which is it's somewhat binary. Either you're chasing greatness or you're not, and you're taking the risk that no one else will do it in your place.
Yeah.
So.
I would say, and the last thing I would say is that as I stepped out of All-Star from the owner, we sold it, and then now I was medical director, and then from medical director to not being a medical director and handing those reins over, that feeling of loss of authority, loss of being relevant, those things are all things that as you get older, you're like, oh, I was the master. I was Yoda. Now I'm not going to be these things. I don't know if he feels that way, but that could potentially be some underlying, resistance, right?
I think that's much more common.
Yeah.
With everybody. Yeah.
And so I think that could be a factor. So just be mindful of that, I suppose, as you're working your way through this. And no, that wasn't the last thing. This is the last thing I'm going to say is have them listen to the podcast.
Right? You're always Yoda to us.
Oh, geez.
That's so interesting
Master
you say
Yoda.
that, because I didn't have that feeling at all.
I think that your role was just so much different than mine.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, I know, but I mean, I was just very so.
All right. Well, that's it for today's episode of the Vet Practice Playbook. We hope you got a few plays to use yourself or for your clinic. If you enjoyed this conversation, share it with others, leave us a review, and check out vetpracticepro.com for tools and courses that can take your clinic to the next level. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Take care.